There are many different ways to bind a quilt, and we're going to show you one today. This is probably the most common one. I don't cut my fabric on the bias when I do a binding, and a lot of people do. I don't because it's not necessary and it takes up a lot of extra fabric. There are certain situations where there's a scallop involved where you might want to do that, but this really is not one where it's just a regular quilt. So what you do is you cut 2.5-inch strips of fabric. You cut your fabric into 2.5-inch strips with your rotary cutter and your blade. Some people do 2 1/4, some people do 2. I do 2.5. It gives you enough room and a nice finish when you fold it over. So when you cut these into 2.5-inch strips, you're going to have to join them because you're cutting them 2.5 inches by the width of the fabric. So you're going to get rid of your selvages, cut off your selvages, and then you're going to make this nice diagonal seam, and I'm going to show you how to do that. What you do is you take your fabric and you put it right sides together. Now this one's already been sewn together, this is all done. But what you do is you take one strip, alright, you take one strip of fabric, and then you take your next strip that you're going to put together with it to make it long enough, and you're going to put it perpendicular, alright? So you're going to put them you're going to lay them perpendicular. Now you've cut off your selvage edges here, because when you cut a 2.5-inch strip by the width of fabric, you're going to have a selvage edge on there. So you're going to cut off the little bit that's the selvage edge, and you're going to lay them perpendicular to each other like so. Then you're going to sew your diagonal seam. So you're going to sew it from this point here to this point here. You're going to pin it, and you can even take a ruler and make a line from there, to that point right there. See the point of the other piece of fabric? You're going to have a straight line between those 2 points. And then you can put your pin in there. And then you're going to go to the sewing machine and you're going to sew straight across it on that line. The line from here to there. You're going to sew straight across it. So then it's going to look like this on one side, okay, on the right side. On the wrong side, where you've just sewn, it's going to look like this, but you're good when you open it out. See now before that what happened? Before that, here's my 2 perpendicular strips that I've sewn on the diagonal there. There's my seam, and I've trimmed off that corner. I've trimmed off that little corner that you would get. Okay, so here's one strip, here's one strip. They were laid perpendicular, and then I sewed from corner to corner. And then you open it out and you press, and then that's what it looks like. And you do that for the total number of strips that you need to bind your quilt. If you're binding a queen size quilt, you're probably going to need about 10 2.5-inch strips. So take that into account when you're buying fabric, that you're going to need 10 times 2.5 inches. Okay, so you're gonna get extra because you're gonna screw up, and you're gonna need about 3/4 yard of fabric to bind a queen size quilt. So once you join them all together like that, then you're going to press them, and you're going to make sure that the right sides are out. The right sides of your pieces are out so that you don't sew the wrong side to your quilt. Now here's an example of how it's pinned. Okay, when you do it, I'm going to take that out. Then you're going to look for the right side. So here's the right side of my fabric. There's the right side. So I'm going to fold the right sides out. Now when you apply the piece, you fold it. You fold it in half. See that? You fold it in half and you lay it on the edge. Now you don't want it to go exactly on the edge. You want just a little bit of that peeking out. And you're going to make of the quilt underneath peeking out. And you're going to make a 1/4-inch seam. But you're going to start here. You're going to leave a little pigtail. You're going to leave a tail like this. So you're going to start sewing right about here. So you're going to pin that down. And you're going to sew until you get to the corner. And then we're going to show you how that's done. So you start pinning fold it in half. Don't lick my fingers. Fold it in half, pin along the edge. You're going to pin all the way down there.